Cobra Kai Season 4 has dropped on Netflix. You've had a week to watch it. So today we're going to stop and rank all 10 episodes of Cobra Kai Season 4 from the least best to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all 10 episodes of Cobra Kai Season 4. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. As we go into this, I will be talking spoilers, so if you haven't watched the season yet, go watch the season, come back with your notes, and join in the conversation here. One final thing before we get started. I liked this whole season. I don't think there was a bad episode or a filler episode, just the ones that really paid off nicely and the ones that were frustrating, but they were supposed to be frustrating, but they were less enjoyable for that reason, so they're lower on the list, and let's get started. Coming in last place, episode 4 by Bofali, and as I said before, I do enjoy this episode. It is an important piece to the entire season, but I think it's the episode that kind of frustrated me the most, because the entire purpose of this episode is to ratchet up the tension, where you have all the characters doing something that you're not terribly happy about because you know it's not going to end well for them and for the season as a whole. And so while it fit, it made sense, and it was an important piece, it's just frustrating. So you have Tori working her new job. Sam shows up, happens to see Tori there, and starts heckling her. And on the one hand, Tori deserves it. Can't blame Sam for what she's doing, but because of the way Sam is doing it, it's not as satisfying as you want, because it is the rich kid picking on the kid that has to work a job to take care of her mom. And so it's like, it's not satisfying. It's good writing because you're supposed to be frustrated by it, but it's those sorts of moments. Or likewise, you have Kenny showing up at the high school and he's excited about his new JoJo, and all the Eagle Fang kids see him and they start bullying him a little bit over it, and you're like, so many conflicting emotions about everything taking place right now. That's kind of the way the whole episode plays out. On the positive, there's a bunch of great references to Bloodsport. I'm always on board for Bloodsport references, and you see a bunch of the movie in the background at the drive-in. And then likewise, it's nice to see Daniel teaching Miguel how to drive. So there are some nice touches in here, just real great little standout moments. And I totally appreciate what they were doing with the episode and the writing, but it was frustrating to just see Hawk being a butthead once again, see Sam being cruel in a way that's not satisfying. Number 9, episode 1, Let's Begin. Once again, I'm shocked that this episode is this low on the list, because the season kicked off and I was like, all right, this is what I wanted from the beginning of the season. It's fun to see Daniel and Johnny trying to work together, but having totally conflicting styles at the same time. It was great to see Terry Silver show up in a totally different phase of life and see John Kreese trying to pull him out of his snooty rich boy life that he's created for himself.
I say no.
And at the same time, it's just a setup episode. It's the one that's putting all the pieces in place, catching us up with how things are working. And right off the bat, you see that even though Danny and And right off the bat, even though Johnny and Daniel said they wanted to work together, they're just clashing the way they always have right off the bat. It was a little bit frustrating that they didn't do more to try and work together. That's what the whole first 3 seasons were about, to getting us to the point in time where they're trying to work together and immediately they're just doing the same exact stuff. So it's a little bit frustrating that we didn't get more of kind of the honeymoon phase of them coming together. But like I said, great setup, great to see Terry Silver. A lot of things I liked about this episode. I just really like this season, and there's a bunch of these episodes that just stood out more. Number 8, episode 7, Minefields. Another episode, I can't believe it's this low on the list because there's so many nice little moments in here, but that's what's tricky when you have a show that you really do enjoy. So the big standouts here is that you kind of finally have the payoff of the Kenny plotline with Anthony, where Anthony, being a jerk, steals his clothes, embarrasses him, so Kenny decides to enact his revenge and comes up with this plan to basically use the cameras at the school to lure Anthony and his buddies into the library, where he does a stealth mode takeout of all of them, and then when they get caught, all the cameras show Anthony and his buddies were just total jerks. They were the one chasing him. They're the one that made all this happen. So Anthony gets suspended. There's a lot of frustrating things in here as well. Anthony is just too big of just a butthead. So much that you're supposed to be driven mad by him, and he does. He drives me crazy as he makes such horrible choices and then has every opportunity to make a better choice and keeps heading down the wrong path for so much of the season. And it's the right kind of frustrating, but it's still frustrating. Likewise, Miguel finds out about Johnny and his mother, and you know that was gonna happen, but then it leads to Johnny being awkward, and it was like you had to have this little moment, but it's not the most fun thing to watch. It's not the most satisfying thing, so not the best payoff, most satisfying, besides the Kenny stuff where he's taking out Anthony. That was really nice when that happened. Number 7, episode 6, Kicks Get Chicks. Another episode with so many great moments in it, and then some of these other plot lines that weren't quite as interesting to me. Big standout here was Johnny trying to recruit high school girls for his karate team.
Girls one. Gotta be under 18 or it's a no-go. No, not like that.
That to me was the funniest stuff of the entire season. And then likewise, you have Daniel and Silver talking at the, I guess, gas station, convenience store or whatever. Nice little moments of kind of them having their back and forth now that both of them are grown-ups.
You just don't want to admit there's always been a little Cobra Kai in you.
And so I really dug those elements to the season. And then, it's nice to see Aisha return just a little bit here. And then I dug the plot line that was running all throughout the season where Amanda is trying to help out Tori while at the same time trying to protect her daughter. I thought just a nice dynamic that feels like an adult that realizes, oh, this person that's being awful to my daughter has a horrible family situation, and adults respond in interesting ways when they realize things like that. So some of those dynamics were interesting. Once again, kind of the path it takes Sam down isn't one that's the most fun to watch. She go visits Aisha. That's nice to see. But then Sam's takeaway from all of this is like going and confronting and just like being mean to Tori once again. Like, you get it. It feels earned. It's not out of character. It's not wrong. It fits her character arc. But when you get to that moment, it's not like really satisfying with the way that they've built the pieces, set things up. You're supposed to feel very kind of torn in the middle when you have a Tori that they've made sympathetic in this season. And even her mom is helping Tori. And then you have Sam like, I don't know what you're up to. And as the audience, we know she's not really up to anything. She legitimately is trying to go to school so she can take care of her family. We know all that. Sam doesn't. And so the misunderstanding is frustrating to watch on screen. But like I said, there's a bunch of things in here that are really nice to watch. The changes to the tournament, and of course, Johnny being Johnny.
But at Eagle Fang, we confront that problematic phrase and make it empowering for all. We teach anyone who identifies as female to embrace their queenly strength and tear down the neo-masculine hierarchy to confront internalized sexism.
Next up, episode 3, Then Learn, Fly. Fun development episode where the conflicts between Daniel and Johnny lead them to switching their students, which was created several moments that I didn't know that I wanted. I wasn't expecting that watching Sam kind of take to Johnny in an interesting way, and Johnny being like really excited to see Daniel's daughter rebelling against Daniel. It was that dynamic and relationship that I didn't know would be so fun and satisfying to see running throughout this season. That informs a lot of kind of what Sam does, even the stuff that I've kind of complained about at other points in time in this video. It's informing this version where Sam is a more aggressive person than Daniel was, and she likes that about Johnny, and she didn't realize she would like that about Johnny. And I like that aspect of this one, especially when she does jump the roof in this ridiculous Johnny-esque scenario that everyone called him out on.
What if we fall?
That's what the mattresses are for.
And if we miss the mattresses?
Try not to.
And then you kind of see Silver return back to the crazy guy just a little bit. As he embraces the fact that he is going to come and help Kreese. And as much as he's trying to not be that guy, he feels that loyalty. He's torn, and he's still got that Cobra Kai inside of him, so he decides to return. So a bunch of stuff in this one that was just a lot of fun to see. Thought the Kenny stuff here got a bit frustrating because when you have Kreese like talking down to a middle schooler and treating everything like everything is survival of the fittest and you only get the most cruel students to join, plays a bit heavy-handed for what they were trying to do. So I didn't think all of that entirely worked here, but most of this episode, very cool stuff. In 5th place, episode 8, Party Time. From here on out, I think they're all pretty great episodes that you could switch any order around here. They're all really good, satisfying ones. And in this episode, we see the return of Stingray and kind of get the desperation of him. You have that cluelessness, but you also have that just enough self-awareness that he is a loser, that he's found himself through Cobra Kai and wants to prove himself any way possible, whether that's pandering to high schoolers or what starts taking place at the end of the episode.
You want to be Cobra Kai?
And then, of course, you have the prom involved where you have Sam and Miguel just wanting to have a normal prom, but Cobra Kai wants to mess with everything. And so then you have the budding love between Tori and Robbie playing into that, and Terry Silver wanting to feed all of the toxic nature of what they're doing. So they go on an actual prom date that's also a mission to mess with other people's minds before the tournament that's coming in the future, in which case, turns out that Tori and Robbie have a great prom. They have fun, they dance and fall in love with each other and realize that both of them like each other. Whereas it absolutely works also in ruining prom for Miguel and Sam, who are just fixated on the tournament in the bad way, don't enjoy each other's company, and when the fight breaks out, end up having a fight between the two of themselves that causes lots of trouble. And then the other big piece in here was that you do have the fact that Silver is messing around with Johnny's kid, using money to kind of manipulate him, and even Johnny's Robbie's mom, who's kind of a mess herself, realizes something's up here. So Johnny goes to confront him, and you have Silver beating the crap out of Johnny, just establishing Silver is the real deal and is able to destroy Johnny in a fight. And then you see Kreese's soft side, where Kreese for a moment realizes when he sees the aggressive Cobra Kai bullying applied to the person he cares about, suddenly he snaps out of it just a little bit.
Let him go. Now.
He sees this Cobra Kai aggression the way that everyone else sees it for the first time and realizes, wait, this isn't what I want. This isn't good. This isn't right. Just a little bit, setting up that growing tension between Silver and Kreese. And then the closing scene where Miguel and Johnny are just so vulnerable with one another, and then Johnny calls him Robbie.
I love you. I love you too, Robbie.
Is one of the most gut-wrenching sequences in the entire show. So I can't believe this episode's in 5th place. Even as I'm talking about it, I was like, man, that was a good episode. That's this season. And I really, really dug this season. In 4th place, episode 9, The Fall, the first half of the tournament episode. And honestly, I don't have a ton to exactly talk specifics about this one, except to say that what they did so well with this season was set up all of these character arcs and character development in a way that it actually paid off with the choices that were made in the tournament. And so you slowly start seeing a humbled Hawk finding his confidence. Dimitri realizing like he's not that weird kid that he was in the first season. He can do this. He actually can grow and be good at things. And then you see the softening in Tori and Robbie, and all those pieces start coming together while having a bunch of really cool, fun fights, while having Carrie Underwood pop out of nowhere inside of the story in a way that you're like, yeah. And likewise, as you see the points tallying up, you come to that realization of like, very much so the reason Cobra Kai is going to win is because Daniel and Johnny couldn't get along. They split themselves up, they split their talent, they split their points, and they sabotaged themselves in doing so. The Cobra Kai mind games are exactly what defeated them, as well as their own stubbornness, unwillingness to change, grow, in a lesson that the kids understood in the first episode. And you really start to realize that in this episode. Other fun thing about this episode, I miscounted the number of episodes. So as you're watching this one, you start getting into the last couple of fights, and Robbie makes some terrible choices. Miguel and Johnny are like, Miguel's clearly not happy with what Johnny's saying. There's all these loose threads, and then Miguel and Hawk are fighting. Miguel jumps up in the air, and his back snaps, and he falls on the ground. I thought that was the end of the season. I thought it was over. I was like, I have to wait a year to see what happens to Miguel. I have to wait a year to find out if Robbie goes full heel. Like, I got to wait a year on all of this. And then the next episode started. I was like, whew, all right. I'm much happier with my life. I don't know if I could have made it if that was the case. If that was the cliffhanger they left us on, that was too much tugging at my heart in too many directions with not enough resolution if they'd ended it there. But it didn't. It was like a really funny moment. The way it played out, I was like, oh, really? No. Real quick, before I give you my top 3, remember to join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all 10 episodes of Cobra Kai Season 4. Remember, my list isn't the right list. It's just my list, and I would love to see yours. And also remember, last place doesn't mean I dislike the episode. I really liked this season. I liked all these episodes. I don't think there was a filler episode. It was a very solid season. Just some of them paid off, pulled out more fun emotions for me than some of the lower ones that were frustrating, but they were frustrating for probably the right reasons. Also, I've done a bunch of other Cobra Kai and Karate Kid content. You can check that out in this playlist up here. And I got more videos coming in the next few days related to Cobra Kai. In third place, episode 5, Match Point, the rematch, the official rematch between Johnny and Daniel. And I've said it many times before, but as a grown-up that grew up watching the original Karate Kid trilogy, I resonate a little bit more with the Johnny-Daniel plot lines in here. So the idea of them being torn apart because of Silver being reintroduced into the mix.
My past behavior was inexcusable.
Kind of sets off Daniel down a path of, I got to take control to be able to win this deal. And he stops thinking about the team. Johnny has been insecure ever since he's seen Miguel and Daniel spending so much time together. And so Silver showing up plays just the right mind games to cause that division between the two of them. So they decide to have a final fight to settle who's going to take over. And it just leads to so many great little moments that I love about this show. You have the moment in time where the day afterwards, Daniel's like, maybe I did that wrong. And then it cuts to Johnny training using the music from Rocky IV and going to locations that look like they're out of Rocky III and punching and kicking waves while it cuts to shots of like bald eagles. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Absolutely perfect. Then you add to that, Miguel discovers on Johnny's Twitter, the fight because of Johnny's Twitter. And of course, Johnny only has one follower and it's Miguel. And the idea that Johnny has a Twitter, knows how to use it. Really funny stuff. And of course, just the payoff of the two of them having a fight where each of them keep blocking and landing blows just perfectly to balance everything out.
Go to another angle.
There is no other angle.
I just thought this is what I love about this show, this type of humor, this type of follow-up, and each of them being so butt-headed that they won't back off at all, and just a lot of peak Johnny in this episode. Our runner-up, episode 2, First Learn, Stand. And this one had a bunch of different plot lines, and I thought all of them were handled really nicely and set up the season really well. Kind of the one at the center stage here was the fact that Daniel and Johnny decide to train one another, and that was just so satisfying to see each of them trying to learn the other person's style, and they keep escalating and building on all of that. As of course you have Johnny complaining about all of the Miyagi-Do life lessons, chores turned into lessons, and Johnny's not having any of it, but at the same time starts to get it just a little bit. And of course, as you build up into the final section where they go to the hockey game and Johnny's instigating so much trouble with the team, all leading up to this great payoff where Daniel gets in a fight, beats all these guys up. Johnny walks up and Daniel's like, hey, what was that about? And then they did a great setup payoff here where Johnny goes, where the hell were you?
No, be there.
As this reference to one of Mr. Miyagi's lessons where it's like Johnny applied what Daniel taught him and therefore Daniel got in a fight by himself. But all the other stuff was really nice too. This is where they introduced the Kenny plot line where Daniel's son is bullying a kid. And you can tell he doesn't want to be the bully, but he himself is under so much peer pressure, and he's a coward in all of it and caves in. And so you see Kenny as this sweet little kid that you understand he's a troubled family situation. You feel so bad for what's taking place. You're so mad about what's happening to him. And then you see him at the end of that discovery that he's probably heading down the Cobra Kai path. And you just get this sense of dread of this vulnerable kid being bullied, going to Cobra Kai, and you know this will not end well. You want him to learn that confidence, the strength. You want him to be able to fight back against Anthony, but you also know this is not a good path for Kenny to be on. And then the other big win here, I would say the most improved character in season 4 was Tori. I was not a fan of her in season 2 and 3 because she was just so one-note and cruel. And here they do a much better job of making her a sympathetic character where you start to understand the rage, the frustration, and they throw Amanda into the mix as this unlikely kind of mentor to her that's trying to help her out. That it starts with Amanda confronting her about everything that kind of went down. And Amanda's doing something very reasonable, and it leads to an end result that wasn't what she intended, and it just creates just enough sympathy for her, which helps us as the audience have sympathy for her, and they kind of play it out nicely if you just start to understand very much Tori's worldview. And so many levels. It had the drama, it had the high school politics, or middle school politics as it was really in this episode, and then a bunch of just great Johnny Daniel moments. But coming in first place, episode 10, The Rise. I feel like they saved the best for last. And when you have a season that ratchets up the tension really nicely, that has a clear focus, you're able to pay everything off really nicely. And that's what I felt like happened with this season. They designed all the character arcs, all the developments to run parallel to the main plot line, which is training all these students for the tournament. Thematically, it was about the importance of working together, and that's what Daniel and Johnny weren't doing. Thus, all the payoff of the themes, the lesson to be learned throughout the season, and then the actual individual character arcs all pay off with the choices that everyone makes in each fight. And so as you go into it, you're watching a Robbie who on the one hand is trying to be the person Kreese wants him to be, also trying to be his own man, trying to be a mentor to Kenny, and you see him going back and forth all throughout these last 2 episodes, building up to this moment in time where he watches Kenny become a bully and just destroy Anthony, and seeing that it's Anthony gives just enough humanity to it of he's like, oh crap, what have I done? Like, Kenny is a monster. Kenny is exactly what I didn't want him to be, and I turned him into this. This is the exact opposite of what I wanted. And you just see that, and it just shapes him a little. Robbie, I think, is another character like Tori that was much improved this season of showing that duality inside of him, of what he's balancing in his mind and his different loyalties, and it breaks him in that moment where he realizes that he failed. Add to that, you have Tori learning just enough lessons about what she did, like how she should be behaving differently, so that she's still trying to win. She still wants to beat up Sam, but she also realizes, like, I don't really want to hurt her. I just want to win, and I want to own this. And as you get to the final moments, and Tori realizes she didn't win. Terry paid off the judge, therefore she got extra points that Sam should have gotten. Likewise, you have Sam and you have Daniel and Johnny embracing the fact that, like, they're going to take their own path, and Daniel's okay with the fact that his daughter is more aggressive than he is and learns stuff from Johnny, and that's the best way to win. You have Hawk, who was such a butthead at the beginning, or butthead for seasons now, was humbled, comes back and finds his confidence in a much more balanced way. And you even have Robbie and Johnny having a moment where they actually bond and connect. They let their guard down and they try and understand one another. There's so many great notes paying off this long journey, really, of the last several seasons so well. And then all of it ending with Cobra Kai wins. Terry Silver's going to do what he said he was going to do in Karate Kid 3.
We'll soon be opening Cobra Kai franchises throughout the entire valley. So every one of you young men and women here can be part of our championship dojo.
That's going to happen. And he boots Kreese out of the mix for losing his way and having a soft spot for Johnny and sabotaging what this was all about. So satisfying. And then we reveal that Daniel's teaming up with Chosen to take down Cobra Kai as the ultimate team up of Miyagi-Do's influence, bringing together heroes and villains from Karate Kid 2 to take down the villains of Karate Kid 1 and 3 and Cobra Kai the series. Such a great cliffhanger, so satisfying. It was everything that I wanted. It ended on a high note. It paid off so well. And you have Miguel not even fighting because he's realized he's not fighting for the right reasons and wants to find his father. I thought it was all the right notes, all the right things that felt earned, felt right. It was so satisfying, so it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, I've got more like it. You can check them out right over there in that playlist. More Cobra Kai, more Karate Kid, all that fun stuff. And I got more content coming in the future about Cobra Kai. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much.